Can you hear me?
There's Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hey, what's up, Nicole? How you doing?
Hello.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, strong.
James, you gave me a reason for the first time in a month to do my hair.
Oh, yeah?
So thanks, I guess.
Oh, man. Crazy.
Me too, James. Thanks for letting me do my hair today.
Yeah.
I didn't want to embarrass you, Seth, but I was gonna say.
Hey, I'm a humble man. I know.
I had a couple other questions. You can ask them, Nicole, if you want, if you need stuff to get going.
Okay, so I was just pulling together a huge list of questions that people have put together.
Okay.
We have 20 questions here. But yes, I would love to hear yours.
So one is, Tyler Kluver, the guy that was on the call last night, he's famous for the polecat,
Right.
Ohio State game.
That's right, yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, one, how long they had practiced that year? Was it a special play they put in for that week? How often did they practice it? Did they know they were going to possibly use it in that game? Or was, how long before he called the play did Kluver know? And then apparently the other two guys are going to feed him crap because he didn't complete the pass perfectly.
Right.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're talking.
We're talking Hawks? Oh,
Yeah, the 2017 game.
I don't remember that one.
And then the other question I had was, what do the guys think about the quality of college football this coming year without spring play? And I know there's a couple teams that actually almost completed their spring play. So do they have an advantage? I'm just wondering what they think about, is especially with the new quarterback, losing out that period is going to be painful for us, I would think.
Do you know, did Iowa get any of theirs in?
No. They
Okay.
were about to start. Nebraska apparently was in the middle of theirs. And then there's some schools that almost completed their spring practices.
Nebraska needs all that help they can get.
I
Right.
agree. So I don't know if you guys listen to their podcast at all. They had Zabel. They had
Dolph.
thank you. Jeez.
You said Zabel. I love it.
I know, I'm like Zabel.
Old school.
I got a Zabel, a little Jim Zabel bottle.
Oh, I have some
Awesome.
bottles downstairs. I should go get them.
Yeah.
We got to ask him too what they're drinking.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh man. So, but we're recording this, and then Kevin, you can use it on our website. They're gonna apparently put it up on their website too.
Cool. Why?
So that's why I thought.
I wrote this idea at Iowa City like weeks ago before you brought up Carsonson. And they're like, well, we got to figure that out, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
They just announced today that they're doing one now called Chat from the Old Cap.
Yeah.
And they're bringing someone who's a yoga instructor at the White House. Cool.
Yeah, I saw her.
Yeah, you saw that, Zeth? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we win this round.
Hi, Tracy.
Hey, so James, I just want to make sure, order of events, you're going to kind of kick off and.
No, you go ahead and start.
Okay.
I think my thought is that definitely you or Kevin and then Zeth definitely talk about the clubs, because there's going to be some people on that maybe are not familiar with the clubs, but just go ahead and give the pitch out on what we do. And there's Drake. Hey.
How we doing, everybody? It's
How are you?
Hey, Tyler. What a bum.
Yeah, Nicole, I can talk about the clubs. I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I can kick it off and then turn it over to you and Zeth to talk about our individual clubs, and then go back over to the guys with questions.
And I'll just go on mute and I'll kind of keep an eye on things.
Perfect.
I'm going to mute everyone, but obviously the three guys, and then Nicole, I'll keep yours open.
Okay. And I can see it while they're talking, so there's not feedback.
Yeah. So I'll just to kind of keep the background noise of everyone that's watching. So
That sounds good.
That works. I'll mute myself so there's no feedback, and then just tee me up, and I'll do a little 2-minute spiel on the Phoenix Iowa Club, and then hand it back to you, Nicole. So it's all in your hands.
and then Nicole,
Phoenix Iowa Club, let's go.
Nicole, I would remind people if they have a question they can type it in chat
Right.
or raise their hand.
Yep.
And I can unmute them if you want me to do that.
So we got guys from New York City
Nice.
who accepted, who RSVP. Someone from Missouri.
Yeah, so Alvin's on.
And then Iowa City was definitely there, like the first people that signed up for it at the CI. And then I also invited the staff council from the university of trying to connect to other faculty. So they're going to want to come and listen to make sure we're not being too big of jerks, and so they can maybe reach out to more faculty, administration from the hospitals to see what we can do. So should we have a good broad range of people?
Yeah. So,
Is it more than Alvin from New York, Kevin, or?
A couple different.
Okay.
I think Daniel signed up for it,
Okay.
and he was broadcasting it to his group.
Cool.
I can make multiple co-hosts, right? I think I can. I'm gonna make the 3 guys.
If it was Teams and Microsoft, I'd be like, hey, I got that, but no idea with Zoom. So
I know Tyler wants to be, Clover wants to be a co-host. Like Drake, I made you one. And Drake, we're recording this as well for you guys to use if you want. So,
Okay.
is there
I'm not exactly sure what this is, man. I just got a text from Clover that said show up, and so here I am.
The
At
most
least you showed
important
up,
question
Drake.
is,
That's the first step.
do you have your drink? That's the question.
I need to get a drink. I'll get a drink.
Let's fix that right away.
It is a happy hour, so
Exactly.
water, coffee.
Water.
that was my favorite quote in that article that talked about us being national champions for basketball next year. Was how Iowans love their beer, and here.
Did you guys see that Iowa's closing down the Union?
I just saw that.
No,
Just read it. The Union's closing down.
Yeah. End of an era.
Yeah,
Aaron.
right.
it'll reopen in a month after a new ownership. They just keep the name
wanna
and
go
everything.
outside?
And
Yeah. You want to come outside? Is it charged?
I wonder, is there a way to like start with everyone muted?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute. I don't know, why does Anthony have a weird name on his account?
That is surprising.
so the FBI doesn't follow him.
I've got other theories, but yeah, it's probably one of them.
All right, y'all. Cheers.
Nice.
Oh, that's a good step.
There we go.
Jeez.
Say, grab a cocktail.
That's
If
why
I
I
wasn't muted by the host, James, I would tell you. I'm at
You what?
house.
What'd you say?
He said if you weren't muted by the host, he would tell you.
What up, Clover?
What up, bro?
What's going on, guys?
Hey,
So
Tyler.
Deneen Connolly.
Other Tyler. Iowa Club.
Yo,
Tyler.
all right, trivia question. Who can tell me where I got this? If you recognize the svelte aerodynamic design.
Malone's.
I
He
think
stole
only
it from
3 people
Spoko.
enough to know.
You want something else, like beer, or do you want?
I think James knows. I can see him.
You want to join me or you want me to come in?
Kevin definitely knows.
What's going on, folks?
Hello.
Wow, Kevin, you look so
Oh.
good.
Thank you. I
This
appreciate that.
is who the computer belongs to.
Ah,
Hey,
Hello.
What's going on, Washington, D.C.
what's up, guys?
Windy out.
There's more than
That's
DC,
it,
man.
man.
We got Phoenix. We're gonna get New York, Missouri, Iowa City. We've
Oh,
got
really?
Michigan and all this, yeah.
Oh, damn. Look at us.
Kevin, they've severely overestimated our importance.
Well,
I'm gonna mute everyone except for the three guys, the 3 co-hosts, and Nicole. And Nicole, I'll make you a co-host as well, so that you have some control.
Drake had there's Drake. Drake, how you doing, buddy?
I don't have.
Kev, you showed up in a polo. I almost went to the closet to get a suit coat.
I find that very hard to believe.
I think there's multiple co-hosts. Okay, I'll mute everyone and then Nicole, Nicole, I'll let you.
You think we should kick it off now or wait?
Oh, wait a few minutes.
Okay.
Let me know when you want to start.
Okay, that sounds good. You can keep people unmuted until then, I guess, if you want.
Well, as we're waiting, someone has to tell a joke. And I think, Nicole, you're emceeing, so
I think since it was your idea, you should lead us off.
I'm an idea guy. I'm not execution.
Bad jokes? Bad dad jokes? Anyone?
Look at that. James came prepared.
What happened to the shoplifter who stole a calendar?
He
got 12 months.
There you go.
Nice.
We'll throw that out now.
Oh, that hurts.
It's a bad dad joke book.
Well, you actually have a book. Holy hell.
I do.
I feel like we have some people who don't have their videos on. We need to see people.
Anybody enjoying happy hour out there?
Yeah.
They see, baby.
Kevin, this is
You
a
got there,
drinking
Drake.
affair. This is your
Drake wins. I mean, there's.
Drake, speak up. I can't read that, dude.
With Black Label.
Oh, nice.
Okay, Nicole, I'll just mute. I'm going to mute everyone because we're starting to get a lot of background noise, and then I'll make sure that you. In the three are in the-
Sounds good.
Oh, where did the guys go? Unmute.
I can hear you, James, Kluve.
Gotcha.
I can hear Kluve, Drake.
Yeah, I'm here.
We're ready to rumble, folks.
Kevin, how many iPads do you have?
I have 2 iPads. One is from work, one is my own. So this
Kevin's
is why
got
Kevin
one.
iPad
One is
2.
strictly for porn.
Sure. Doesn't everyone?
Easy there, killer. Easy there.
Oh, this is so great.
Kluver, they made me go get the Johnny Walker Black Label, bro. The cuffs are off.
We said don't come back without it.
I'm worried.
Kluver, do you guys even have alcohol in the house?
Me?
Yeah.
We actually have a decent amount, just from like wedding gifts from last year.
And you have it good stuff, man? Send it this way.
No, I'm guessing they're a White Claw family.
We make our own vodka sauce pasta like once a week, so we've got some vodka.
I've never made vodka sauce. There's actual vodka in it.
Yeah. It's just like
vodka sauce for a reason, right?
It's just it's not very hard. You just take like a store-bought pasta sauce, put some heavy whipping cream and some vodka in it, and
Nice.
Like, we're talking vodka Sam vodka or just like a little
Hawkeye vodka. Come on.
vodka Sam. Albernet's.
hashtag 314.
Excellent. Well, I think that we'll probably have some more folks joining us, but since it's a few minutes after here and I don't want to stop people from drinking because I'm sure you're all waiting to kick off here. I'm Nicole Gustafson. I graduated from Iowa in 2003, but I'm now in the D.C. area, a member of the Capital Area Iowa Club on the board here. We're so excited to have our guys from Washed Up Walkons here today. We've got Tyler Kluver, Drake Kulik, and Kevin Ward with us. Kind of going to give us some behind the scenes looks into the Iowa football locker room, but I think y'all have good insights into Iowa sports kind of across the board and really give us a good feel on your podcast in each episode for things that normal fans don't get, those behind the scenes looks. And so we appreciate y'all doing that all the time. It's kind of an Iowa version, been described as an Iowa version of Barstool. I was amazed when I kind of did some looking into it. Y'all get 5,000 to 6,000 listens per episode, which is amazing. So I think
It'd
you
be
might
better
have
if our guy was any better at marketing.
But we want people, it's a really informal setting here. We want people to, get your drinks. Make sure you got Drake, where you at?
I got you. I'm here.
There we go.
I'll join the party.
And just chime in with questions. You can either type it in the chat or raise your hand. It's part of the chat function. You'll see those bars across the bottom of the screen there. And the guys will answer those as they come along. I've got some kind of prepared in case we come to a lull in the conversation, which I don't think will probably happen. but really just wanted to get everybody together and these crazy weird times, say hey, and let's have a day. So I just want to turn it over now for Kevin and Seth to kind of talk a little bit about respective clubs and what we do in different cities. If you're not a member of your local Iowa club, let us know. We'll help you find that Iowa club, and you can get involved and participate in more fun things like this. Kevin, you want to, or Seth, either one?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, guys, especially the walk-on guys. That's awesome. You guys are joining us. I kind of see this as hopefully a beginning of a great new series. We're all stuck in our houses for, being smart and being safe, but I think we still want to connect. Still want to hear talk Hawks. And I can only talk to my wife so much about the Hawkeyes before she kind of like seriously move on. So this is great. I love that. So let's, talking about the club real quick. We are the DC Area I Club. We not only support DC and surrounding areas, but also Baltimore. And we are, I'm not gonna lie, we're the best in the country. We've won the awards. And now I'm at home, I can show these off. We have all these nice awards for winning best of the club. So we are excited. We are excited that you guys are joining us, and members like you. We've invited New York, Phoenix, and Iowa City all to join this as well. So we're excited you guys are with us to go down this path, and especially Phoenix for helping out, playing this out. So Seth, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, turn up Phoenix, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. Again, Kevin, Nicole, James, thanks for putting this together. Walk-on guys, I appreciate y'all allowing us to get time with you. I appreciate getting a behind-the-scenes look. Cheers, my Phoenix peeps on the call. Appreciate you guys joining. If you guys haven't ever been to Phoenix, first of all, you got to make it out here. Beautiful city. We have over 6,000 alums in the area, so huge Hawkeye alumni population here. That doesn't include just straight up fans. So we have three main watch sites in Phoenix. So told that we have the clubby type watch site to just a laid back chill watch site. So if you guys ever make it out, go to phoenixiowa.club.org. You can find everything you want to know about the Phoenix Iowa Club and upcoming events. So looking forward to talking to you guys today. Cheers.
Well, appreciate you guys having us on. Kevin, I do have to give a shout out to the DCI Club, because the one time that we made a trip out to Maryland, I remember that you guys made a pretty good showing there. We, unlike the Hawks that day, but the fans showed up.
That was my favorite weekend the entire time in DC, man. I love that weekend.
Yeah. So I guess what's the plan here?
Just wanted to turn it over to you guys now to kind of give folks some background on your podcast for those who are new to it, who haven't memorized every episode like James Carstensen has maybe. But just how did y'all get started doing this? How do you pick your topics? That kind of stuff. Can you give us a little background about yourselves too?
Kevin Drake, if you want to start, I'll go into the podcast stuff and you guys can add on.
I mean, the whole reason we started this podcast was because we missed Iowa football and we just wanted to talk about it. And Kluver said that he could put it together, and we're like, all right, if we think we can do it, let's try it. And it started as a let's try it, and we just never quit. And that's pretty much where we're at now. We're just 106 episodes in of talking shit and not quitting.
Drake, we probably should have quit after the first 2 or 3 episodes, but we kept going. We got a little bit better. So
yeah, Drake, what's your background?
My background, from starting where?
As a All-American swimmer in high school to right now.
Yeah, I was an All-American swimmer. I rode the coattails of real All-Americans. My teammates were amazing. They were back-to-back state champions. I just jumped on for the 3rd state title. But then really I wanted to be a Hawk, and there was not many other options for me, kind of like the other 2 guys. That's why we're the Washed Up Walk-Ons and we have a podcast and we're not in the NFL. So that's pretty much where we're at. I had a great career at Iowa. I'm sure we can get into some of the stories as we go on in this podcast. I won't tell them all right up front, but walked on, and it was one of the best and worst decisions ever. So where we're at.
I did track and football back in high school. Had an offer to the Air Force Academy, and then a couple small time offers from D1AA schools. Then also had a preferred walk-on option at Northwestern as well. Ended up walking on at Iowa. redshirted, walked on as a safety, and then after my sophomore year, moved to linebacker. And after my junior year, I was able to get a scholarship. And senior year, I was voted captain. And for some reason, still don't know why. Who knows? So we all graduated in 2017. Like Drake said, we didn't want to exactly call it quits from being a Hawkeye, so we decided to kind of, put this little podcast together, and apparently people sometimes listen to it.
Yeah. That's still a mystery. I grew up in Marshalltown, Iowa. Was a linebacker my whole life. I was bigger in my freshman year of high school than I currently am now, as far as weight. And so I realized quickly when I stopped growing that year that I wasn't going to be Josie Jewell, Big Ten linebacker. And my dad was the coach, so I was the long snapper. Started focusing on the long snapping stuff. Ended up being pretty good and coming out of high school as the number 2 long snapper in the country.
Humble brag.
That's not even a humble brag. That's just a brag.
Not at all. That's just an outright brag.
Yeah.
It's just him swinging his meat every chance he gets.
And that's after that happened, I started to get actual notice. Basically recruited myself into Iowa. Coach Reese Morgan came to the school a few times, but I was basically like, hey, I will walk on for you guys and paint the lines if I have to, and I'll play here. And they took me on, and I turned into the polecat, and that's basically how I'm known. The podcast, a little bit more into that of how it started. Us three, we lived with Josie Jewell, Bo Bauer, and Ike Butker in a duplex house on Benton Street in Iowa City, which we often reference in the podcast. And as you can imagine, 6 football players in one house, it was just the wild times. And we have a group chat that's just called, it's called something else different now, but it was called for a long time the Benton Savages. And the conversations in there they were so good. And a couple of those guys are still in the NFL, and we started every conversation in that chat is worthy of, it's just entertainment. And there was just one night a few weeks into the season in 2018 where I texted the group and I was like, guys, people would listen to this conversation. Like I'm a nerdy guy more so than the other two for sure. Into podcasts, into YouTube videos, all this stuff. And I know that content is huge, especially for stuff like this where people are all over the country and they can't always get to Iowa City, or they can't always be there in person for the Hawkeye stuff. So I was like, well, there's probably a market for like a podcast version of this, and no one's really done something like this. So Josie busy with the Broncos, Ike busy with the Buffalo Bills, Bo is busy hunting somewhere in the Colorado mountains. And so Drake and Kevin and I all at the time were like, well, we don't do anything, so let's start a podcast. And a week later we had our first episode out, and it's so bad if you go and listen to it compared
can we delete those first 5 or 10 episones?
We really should.
Having people on Twitter say that they were going back to listen to episode 1 isn't fair whatsoever.
No. But anyway, the podcast was born, and like Drake said, originally it was just it was like, hey, let's talk about the good old days and maybe shed some light. Drake and I had gained at the time a small following on Twitter, more than the average person, because we were Drake. Well, Drake says just whatever comes to mind, and I had a couple good tweets that blew up. So podcast was born, and now we're sitting on a call with a couple iClubs around the country and wearing our own merchandise.
Yeah, shout out to our merchandise.
Tell us a little bit about all the things you've got on here. I see at least 2 shirts and a hat.
Yeah,
Kevin, come on, Kevin. It's like you have a job or something.
Apparently, I'm the only one that goes to work these days. So
not apparently, you are of the 3.
My mom's in town, man. I can't go to work while my mom's in town.
It's a good excuse, Drake. It's a good excuse.
So I guess the merch stuff was like never on our mind. Like this was never a thing to make money. We don't make money. And any of the money we do make actually either goes back into us creating more merchandise or to the children's hospital. And so Drake started saying this Hawks by a million. One of the things on our podcast during the season,
I put out a stupid tweet. I tried to make a little poem, and I said like roses are red, whatever, something. It's a great day, Hawks by a million, whatever. But that's when I said it, and that's kind of when it was born.
Yeah, and then at the end of the podcast, we would like go over the Hawkeye betting lines of like how if we were favored or not favored to win that day, what we thought about it, and it just kind of there's a few weeks in a row there where we were favored to win. We won like 3 or 4 in a row, and so it was like, if you guys haven't started listening to us, it's Hawks by a million. They're going to win. They're going to cover.
We're paying your mortgages, bet the house. Like we were all in on the Hawks and they kept hitting. And so our words started to become Bible and people were like, yo, these guys are right. Like this asshole Kevin, I don't know where he gets his information, but he's right a lot. And so, it was born.
And at that point, people started asking, like, we got to get some T-shirts or something. And so that's how the merch was born. This is our logo, Wash Up Walk-Ons with the arrow, Hawks by a million. For some reason, the Let's Have a Day is kind of like a morph between something I used to say to the specialists before every practice and a little bit of Pat McAfee, Barstool-esque kind of stuff, bro talk a little bit. And, yeah, now we're the Wash Up Walk-Ons, and we put out 2 episodes a week at this point. In the off season, we're focusing on trying to get as many of our former teammates and people that are popular in the Hawkeye community on. We just had Dolph on yesterday morning. One of our better episodes, gotten a ton of great feedback about that. Our 100th episode a couple weeks ago was with Chad Greenway.
Total legend episode. If you haven't listened to it.
Yeah,
he was on sides.
Out of control.
And some of our better episodes are Nate Stanley, the Paulson brothers. Anytime Josie's on a podcast, Pat Anger came on episode 38. And yeah, we're trying to get to everybody. People request people all the time, like, hey, you should get this guy on. And it's like, yeah, we played with 250 people probably, and like there's 100 Hawkeye football legends that we'd love to have on, but
and you even delved into basketball recently with Big Bear,
and
right?
Basketball, we got Ryan Kriener on. We got
Nick
Bear on. I really tried to get Megan Gustafson on, and she just totally.
If only you knew a Gustafson to try to help you.
Well, yeah, she totally blew me off.
If you want to reach out, please, by all means. We're big fans.
I don't blame her for blowing Kluver off. There's been a lot of women who have blown Kluver off in his day.
If you want me to come on, you can just mumble my first name and just say the Gustafson really loudly, and we'll just make people think.
We could do that.
Boom. What else do you need?
That's basically the podcast, and yeah, we can do some questions.
Yeah. So just reminding people, if you want to ask a question, your mics are all. I've already had too much to drink, or maybe not enough. Mics are all muted right now, but James will unmute you if you want to raise your hand over in the chat function, or just type your question in the chat. While we've got folks kind of queuing up here. I'm told that you do some great Kirk impressions. Can we get some impersonations now while we're waiting for folks?
Shit, all right.
All right. Well, we do some good Kirk impressions. I don't know if they're good. I'll tell you a funny story. Kevin and I lived together in the front house of that duplex, and this is not a joke. For 2.5 or 3 weeks, or was it 2 months, Kev?
It was close to 2 months, dude.
I think it was 2. I swear, any and every conversation between Kevin and I was in a Kirk Ferentz accent. 3 months, to the point where I would do it and we would have the conversation, and then and
we're just like, dude, we gotta stop.
We can't do this, because we were starting to do it around the complex. Other people were starting to do it.
We're starting to do it out in like normal conversation. We're like starting to talk like Kirk. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I got
It's just very, and the accent is very kind of like, it's almost like an echoey accent.
It's very hard to get his voice, but you know, you can get his mannerisms and you can get his fluctuations in his tone. That's kind of what we got down. So, cool. Why don't you go start us off here? Huh?
Yeah. So my favorite was always in practice when we would watch the line. Coach Ferentz hovers around the lineman a lot because he's an O lineman. He's an O lineman coach at heart, and that's kind of his background. And obviously Brian would be coaching, and Brian is a very similar.
Brian's the GOAT.
Yeah, Brian's got the same voice, but in a younger, more powerful tone, and sometimes it even gets screechy. That's really when it gets fun at practice. But KF, every time, and it's mostly the younger linemen, they do a drill where they just fit up on each other, and they drive for like 5 yards, practice run blocking. And this quote that KF would always say, I mean, you probably heard it every practice, was "bring your knees." And so you just out of nowhere hear KF in the corner of practice saying, "Hey, we got to bring our knees, okay? Bring your knees. Fit the pad and bring your knees. All right? It's not that hard. You fit the pad and you bring your knees. All right? Hit it again." And it's just this like kind of high. It's so good. And I'm not. Some of his best stuff is honestly when he cusses. People ask us a lot.
Yeah.
Is like we always imitate him and say cuss words in his phrasing, and they're like, "Does KF really cuss that much?" And we're like, "Yeah, KF cusses a lot."
Yes and no. Like during practice, sure, like any football coach, but you know, just out in normal conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you won't just...
at dinner with Mary, he's probably not saying, "Oh shit, all right," but this pasta isn't even that good, all right. You know, if I could get some more Parmesan, okay, then maybe it would be a good pasta. This pasta in the second half of the season, it's got to be humming, okay, but right now, it's not that good.
This would have been okay in week 2, okay, but Mary, this is week 8. We gotta be getting better throughout the year. All right, this Parmesan, you know, it's just not cutting the place.
And these are the kind of conversations me and Kevin would have. It'd be like, and it has nothing to do with football. Be like,
yeah, you know, back in 2002, we had some pretty good Parmesan cheese. Right? Those guys, they knew how to make. He loved referencing the 2002 team. Like I swear to God, there's at least twice a week during team meetings, he would reference the 2002 team and just how good of a team they were and how well they practiced. And that we'll just be in the middle of a meeting and say, "You know what? You guys got it pretty fucking easy. Back in 2002, we did full pads every fucking practice for 2 hours a day."
KF is the king of. A lot of you maybe have personal experience because it seems like almost everyone does, but KF is the king of, first of all, remembering people's names and like everybody in everyone's family. I could walk up to the complex right now and he would ask like how my parents are doing. It's just nuts, his recall. And on that same kind of level, he remembers every play of every game of every year, every player. It's insane. So he'll pull up like, you know, back in 1986, all right, there's a guy named Johnson, right guard. It was the second quarter in the middle of the Northwestern game, okay? And he broke his fucking leg, but he was still playing his ass off, all right? That's the kind of effort we need right now, all right? And it's just he'll just go off. So those are some of the Kirk impressions. They're better when they're off the cuff and not planned, but
I love it. I know. I love when people put you on the spot and say, "Now do this. Tell a funny joke."
Dude, a couple of those were pretty good, Kluver. I got to give you credit, man. You told a couple of good jokes there.
I think Kevin got one and I got one.
Very nice. We've got some chat questions coming up. First of all, Kevin, nice job on drinking the wine from the bottle. Trying to match Drake, I think, sip for sip.
Cheers.
Out of the bottle.
Cheers, Kevin. Cheers.
Yeah, so these guys are drinkers and I'm not.
Somebody's got to stay sober to get it all done.
Right.
Sounds like fake news to me.
How often does Kirk cry privately with the team?
Man, it's not like, I don't know what.
You could probably count on your hands every year.
Yeah,
I would say it's after the big wins. Yeah, it's you know, every now and then he'll get emotional during a team meeting. Yeah, I mean,
it's
it
special
just
when it
depends.
happens, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
you feel pretty fired up after. I mean, because that you know, I think he gets a bad rap sometimes when, you know, people hate that when he says, you know, that's football. You know, it kind of people think it's like, oh, he doesn't really care. That man cares so much about the game of football and his players and his team and the Iowa Hawkeyes. So that when you see him getting all emotional like that, it's just awesome.
I tell you what, nothing makes me cry faster than when I see Kirk choked up.
Oh,
it's like, never mind.
Oh, and every time after a game, he gets emotional because it's a big win. It fires the team up, and everybody just goes nuts. And then he smiles and cries even harder. I remember in the 2015 season when we capped it off 12-0 against Nebraska in the Tundra in Lincoln. Drew Ott had obviously gone through a lot that season, and a guy in our class, Nate Budgeta, was a big component of that defensive line that year, both from Nebraska. Both hate Nebraska like everybody else on the team. And they were kind of up in the front, and he like was talking, and he's like, we did it. And we did it for Nate and Drew because they were leading us on that D-line, and they had a great game that game. And Nate kind of started crying. It made Coach cry, and it was just like, it's some of the most emotional times like ever. It's hard to even describe, and the feeling is just like Kevin said. It's maybe count them on your hand every season, but you know that the situation means a lot when it happens.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So Tyler, you probably thought this just kind of slipped by when you were giving your little introduction yourself, but I heard you say something about a polecat. It's probably not something we talk about a lot, but I don't know what just happened. Oh, here we go. Look at that.
We have it brought up. We get to watch it. I love it.
Make sure you get real slow motion when he falls on his face.
This is good.
All right. Well, while this is playing, Tyler, can you tell us a little bit more? Like how many times did you practice this?
Many times.
Yeah.
I mean, we practice it so many times.
How many times did you throw a ball
in mind to use during this game, or just to have at your disposal for any point in time?
All right. Yeah. So I'll give the full story.
Yeah.
It's a good kind of background. So we had, that year we had so many fakes. Really, in the past 3 years, we've had a lot of stuff cooked up. I think a lot of that has to do with Coach Woods really taking an aggressive approach to special teams, which I love. I loved being on the forefront of that with Miguel and me and Colton, and we just were throwing. I mean, there were so many ideas thrown around. And so this play was not for the Ohio State Buckeyes. It never on earth was this play supposed to be ran for Ohio State. We actually had this, I don't know if it was 3 games before this or 2 games before this, but we had this play in the playbook for the Northwestern Wildcats. Yeah, we know. I fell. So Northwestern, it was supposed to be a play where we come out in like the first quarter of the game and we have a field goal opportunity where it's 4th and I think it was 4th and 4 or less. And Northwestern wasn't anything special that year. We felt pretty good defensively about playing Northwestern. And, you know, it's like, let's just run it to kind of keep them on their toes. A lot of these trick plays are simply to, even some of the times when you guys see the punt or the field goal team break into a formation and then they don't do anything and they come back to the regular formation. All of that is just to mess with coaches' heads in that game and the rest of the season. Because now you break into this formation, all of these special teams coaches now.
Yeah, everyone you play down the road has to practice that formation, what you might run out of it.
They have to dedicate time in their game plan to that, and it takes resources and time away from the offense or defensive game plan. That's kind
honestly, it's just a big dick move.
Yeah, it's the game that special teams and teams play. So
and then when you pull them off, then it's like an extra FU.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be in for Northwestern. we didn't get the look. We kicked a long field goal. It was like 4th and 14 in really the spot where we would have used it. And we didn't think I was getting 14 out of it, which I actually ended up getting 18 out of it. Could have used 2 more. But it was still in the playbook, and we had proved that it had worked in practice. Kind of the deal with Coach Ferentz is if it's going to go to a game plan for Saturday, you got to show that it works against an unknowing scout team in practice, and it worked. And Colton, of course, threw a perfect ball every time in practice. So we got probably 3 or 4 reps of it in a special teams period, like a 4-minute period in practice for 4 weeks in a row. And of course, with nothing to do but dream of touchdowns and throwing a touchdown for Colton, we probably ran it 25 times on air, me and Colton, just the timing, the snap, yada, yada. So we was like, all right, cool. It's in the game plan. The next week, didn't run it. The next week, didn't run it. We're playing the Ohio State Buckeyes. No one is thinking about doing a fake. Amani Hooker, who was on our podcast about 10 episodes ago, picks off the first pass of the game. It's 7-0. We're back and forth for a while. Now we're like 2 touchdowns up. Now we're 2 touchdowns and a field goal. It's like 17-point lead on the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I don't know whose idea it was, but it might have been Brian's, honestly, because Brian gets real aggressive, like sometimes 3 quarterback sneaks in a row aggressive. And he's like, looks at Coach Woods, and I kind of out of the corner of my eye see this, but I'm thinking field goal because as a specialist, you're kind of just in the zone, like go do your job, get off the field, yada, yada. So we run on, and the decision has been made that we're running the polecat, but I have not been told. And Keegan Render, who's my guard, looks at me and goes, hey, we're running the polecat. You know that, right? And I was like, no, I don't know that, but I know that now. And okay. And in the time, like everyone says, like, what are you thinking? Like in that moment, like, are you thinking you're going to score a touchdown? Hell no, I'm not thinking I'm going to score a touchdown. I'm worried about Urban Meyer calling a timeout. I'm worried about the motion guy. If you watch that video playing, I'm worried about just getting the ball to Colton. I kind of look down the sideline. We split formation, no timeout. Urban runs down to the line of scrimmage, no timeout. Okay, look between my legs and see Colton. Done this a few times. And the knee goes up, the motion man runs past. And the whole idea was I'm uncovered, but you don't want to like jet out right away because you don't want people like, oh, he's clearly a receiver. So I stay down for like a quick second. It was supposed to be like a second and a half, but it was much faster. I look up and I've never seen a prairie of grass so wide in my life. My eyes, I really love mashed potatoes, and I never have had wide eyes at mashed potatoes like I've had this this
Mashed
20
potatoes.
yards.
That's what you described.
He's so corny, bro. He's terrible.
You described a wide open end zone in Kinnick Stadium against the number 3 Buckeyes
as mashed potatoes.
It is mashed potatoes, dude. Never in my life. Yeah. So you can pause it right after I kind of like take a step, and I'll just, if we can, yeah. So the motion guy comes across. I'm waiting for that. He goes across the snap. I look up, and right here, I'm thinking, oh my fucking God, this is really going to happen. So Colton, as you can see, is off of his feet and just shot putted a ball at me. And the Ohio State defender, notice 6'5", backup linebacker, much faster and stronger than your white long snapper, is right behind me. And I know this. And so all I'm thinking is catch the ball, catch the ball, catch the ball. Ball comes to me. I catch the ball, but I see him, and I had stopped my momentum so hard to make sure that I was there and it didn't fall short that I got so excited turning around that I tripped and fell. But then the next play,
you made a good play.
Yeah.
And here I'm realizing that my life is over and I'll never have an opportunity to score again. And then the infamous.
You gave Nate the opportunity to make one of his cooler plays of his career.
Yeah.
And he's actually going to play. At least it was led by you.
Yeah. So, you know, in our podcast with Nate, I was actually like, you know what, Nate, you're welcome. And he said, you know what, thanks, Clue. That was actually one of my better plays. That was like a statement play for Nate Stanley. Guy hanging on his leg, and he throws a dart to Hawkinson for a touchdown. And then
From
my
Sheridan,
heart,
Iowa, my hometown.
yeah, and my heart at this point, I'm off the field for that one play, is beating so fast. Every single guy on the sideline is taking their turn, shitting on me for not scoring the touchdown. And we score the touchdown, and now I have to go back out onto the field and snap a ball. And I can feel the pulse of my heartbeat in my arms. And so I just hoped that the ball got to Colton for the PAT. I literally told myself before the snap, I can't feel my arms. If I botch this and something goes bad, I'm going to tell the coaches to fuck off because I can't even see right now. So that's the story of the polecat, and there you go.
Awesome.
Well told, bud.
Awesome. We've got some more questions coming in the chat. It looks like here we've got from Zeth. Who would you choose as the next head football coach?
Brian.
Ooh.
That was pretty unanimous. I know over you for a second.
I think Kevin would argue Phil Parker.
Phil Parker has an argument. I don't know if Phil wants to be a head coach.
How about Seth Wallace?
Seth could do it. Seth could be a good head coach.
I don't think he would go to Iowa right away, though.
No, I mean, he'd probably he would need to become a coordinator first. I mean, he already kind of runs the defense with Phil. Whoever it is, I really sincerely hope that they hire from within the program, because it's been a program and a culture that they've been establishing for the last 20 years. So I think it would be a lot better for the continuity of the program to hire within. And they have a ton of talented coaches in there that would be able to do it.
I say Brian because just because he's like, and some people wouldn't like this, but he's KF number 2. He's like new Kirk, but he's like the actual physical manifestation child new Kirk. And Brian is really good at the whole modern coaching, connecting with guys, social media, that kind of stuff, where Coach Kirk Ferentz is like, I'm going to let my staff take care of all that, and I'm not going to worry about really getting in with the times 100%. A great thing about Coach Ferentz is he still has an iPod that he listens to his music on game day with. It's like,
what kind of music does he listen to?
It's separate from his phone.
He's a big Chris Stapleton fan.
Yeah.
So whenever him and Doyle are working out in the weight room, Chris Stapleton's like always playing.
Yeah. But I think Brian would be awesome, and I'm a big fan of like Game of Thrones, like family legacy hierarchy, and like Brian takes over the throne, and that's what it is. He's the next king.
And Brian's just a brilliant football mind.
Yeah. As some would like to discredit and like say that he can't call plays, like he's so incredibly smart.
Well, I think people don't really understand too is running a football program as the head coach and being a offensive defensive coordinator are two very, very different jobs.
They are.
It's a lot less hands-on. It's kind of like, being the CEO of a company versus being, mid-level manager. So, you don't get as much interaction with the players. You're not doing a whole lot of hands-on coaching. It's, looking at things from a broader direction, where do we want our team philosophy to be? How do we want to philosophize? What do we want our philosophy to be when we're recruiting, developing players? How do we want to see that transfer to the field? And, what type of staff do you bring in to your program? So
that's true.
It doesn't exactly take a huge X's and O's mind to be a good head coach.
That's true, but
not saying that Brian isn't by any means, but I'm just.
Do you think Brian would be a good head coach though, regardless if it was Iowa or not?
I absolutely think he can be. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say too, because there's a lot of luck that goes into that stuff.
But every player who's ever played for you is like patting you on the back and saying how much they enjoyed playing for you. Like, how could recruits not be persuaded to go and play for a guy like that.
Yeah.
Caitlin wants to know a little more about Brian's temper. She says he seems to be super hot-headed when coaching and wondering what it's like behind the scenes. Seems like Kirk would hate it at times.
I think he broke his hand the Michigan State game our senior year.
He did.
Oh my.
So
Everybody gets angry. Coming from a guy who gets angry sometimes, everybody gets angry
I
sometimes.
get angry. It's all right. It's
Drake,
a very high stressful environment.
Brian, the reason Brian gets angry like that is because he cares so much. You know, like it's like when your parents, if your parents didn't get mad at you for something that you shouldn't be doing, it's like they don't care, right? That's a big thing in the program at Iowa is like if the coaches aren't calling you out on your shit and like making sure you're on time, making sure you're doing your stuff correctly, then that's probably a bad thing because you're past the point of them caring if you stay in the program or not. And Brian, too, he just cares so much about Iowa football. I'll never forget, the team practices the Swarm every year in an empty Kinnick Stadium during a fall practice because it's not like it's a practice thing. Like you're supposed to go slow. You're supposed to stay tight, stay interlocked in hands. And when the first time he ever kind of coached us through the Swarm, he started crying because he was talking about feeling as a Hawkeye brother that has done it before, how everybody across the country that's been there can feel what it's like. And I didn't understand it at the time. And then what do you know, actually every game I've been to since not playing anymore, I cry during the Swarm because it's that emotional. Drake would make fun of me for it because we're different emotionally, but
Yeah, I don't cry.
yeah, I felt what Brian was talking about so much.
Pimps don't cry.
Yeah. You always got to keep your pimp hand strong, dude. You can't cry.
Tyler Baldwin, I am going to attempt to unmute you. See, there you go. Looks like go ahead with your question.
Oh, all right. Well, I got a couple. Thank you guys so very much for joining us tonight.
Sure.
Nicole, thank
Happy
you
to be
for
here.
being, and James, thank you so much for kind of running the board. James is a fantastic member of our Iowa club and the best person to watch football with on a Saturday, just so long as you're not a Penn State fan. Anybody but Penn State for James. So I got a couple questions. We'll start with the hard one. Get the hard one out of the way. Brothers, airliner, sports column, or other?
Ooh,
Did
that
y'all
is the
see
hard
news
one.
today?
Other.
The union is closing.
The union's closing?
Yeah.
All right.
Can I tell you about
The
that
news
place? That
today.
place is a cocaine front.
I'll
tell you that offline.
You don't ever want to go, but you want it to be there. And that doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense.
It does make sense, Kevin.
I don't know about Kevin. Kevin's first experience in an Iowa City bar, probably not the union, but
it was the union.
It was union. So on our recruiting trip,
I got taken to union on my official visit.
Right. So
got that $8 bottle of strawberry champagne.
So
I wasn't paying. I was on my official visit.
yeah, Kevin and I, as seniors in high school, that was our first experience at union, and it was a wild time. Kev, you want to go into detail?
You know what? No. You know,
Mistakes were made.
There are some young ladies in union who just have no
standards.
Not standards. What's the word I'm looking for?
Inhibition?
Class.
All of the above. Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, sure.
Well, you know what? To the union.
To the union.
The union.
She rest in peace.
To union.
All right. Next question. If you guys had to go out right now and run it, what would your 40 time be?
Oof.
Probably.
I've been running a lot, man. I don't know. I'm down to probably 215. I don't know. I haven't stepped on a scale in years, but probably.
How do you know that?
Drake is a disqualification because he would tear his hamstring.
Yes, that's true. But I still think I could run fast one time.
Maybe.
Have you been running fast though, or have you been running far? Because running far doesn't make you fast.
I mean, I've been doing a little bit of everything.
So,
man, What would I run? I'd still be. That's what you're saying?
I could still run 4.75.
That's oof. I don't know, Drake. I don't
Tyler
know.
would not be.
I'm down 35 pounds.
Tyler would not be running 4.75. I would be in the 4.9 somewhere, but I would be under 5.
I'd be somewhere around 4.8. I haven't run since August, where I did this decathlon thing. I've just been lifting heavy weights. I've literally not run since August. I ran like a 4.6 something there, but probably like a 4.8 or something like that.
Sounds like we got to go to the podcast to get this sorted out one of these days. Who's the best? Last question. If you guys could interview one former Hawkeye, alive or dead, for your podcast, who would it be and why?
Kinnick now. I mean, does that even need an explanation?
I don't know if it. So it would not be Niall Kinnick for me. Niall Kinnick was 5'7" and wouldn't start for the Hawkeyes right now.
Niall Kinnick would beat the fuck out of you, Kluver. Niall Kinnick wouldn't trip over the 2-yard line. That's for damn sure.
Niall Kinnick won a Heisman, you Oompa Loompa.
It was 1935, dude.
He died for this country. You don't have a job.
It was 1939. And I have all the respect in the world for Niall Kinnick, but he was 5'7" and probably slow. He would not start.
Football not as good
All
back then.
right.
Yes.
I Drake, I'm not having him disrespect Niall Kinnick. You can go. Just go off, please.
I'm going to go with the hitman, Bob Sanders, just because he was literally my idol. Bob Sanders was it. The people that were my mentors, he was their idols. Like, Bob Sanders was the man. So I would love to have a conversation.
We're going to get Bob Sanders on.
If we can do it, let's do it.
I was in school when Bob Sanders was playing, and that was the first time at the college level, we're sitting up in the cheap seats of Kinnick Stadium. You could hear him. You could hear him hitting people down on the playing surface. At the college level, that's rare.
From what we've heard,
he's like the most violent player of all time. Yeah. So
I would probably, after all the stories came out when Hayden passed away this past year, Hayden would probably be my number one if we could go back and interview him. The accent on the Wash Up Walkons podcast would be a fantastic listen.
Mm-hmm. I know. Are those aviators under your hat there, Drake? I can't tell.
What's that?
Are those aviators under your hat? I can't tell.
Yeah. Well, they're Ray-Bans. I don't know. I just decided to show up the way.
Ready for poker?
Yeah. Let's go.
But using parliamentary procedure, I will surrender the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, good sir. Tiffany wants to know, what do you miss most about being a player?
Man, did you just say violence?
Yeah, dude. Where are your outlets for violence these days?
Drake, you're my new favorite.
Everybody
tells
me.
Training table.
Does anyone know anyone in the FBI out there in D.C.? We need to get some surveillance on Drake Kulik.
Listen, dude, if the purge happens,
stop talking right now, probably.
So for me, I mean, the number one answer for everybody is always like just the guys, like, right?
The guys, the locker room, yeah.
My brother is on the team right now. He's been working out with me the last 2 weeks. And when he comes and lifts weights and works out with me, like I get that same feeling, like my foot is still in the door with the program because he's there and like we're working out and the music's going and like just the locker room, people making fun of each other, clowning each other, Jaleel and Faith having slap fights in the locker room in their towels, just like nothing football related. The camaraderie is a lot of people like, I don't know if any of you are former military, but that's what it's been described as, is like, there's just nothing like the camaraderie and brotherhood of it. And you just don't get that anywhere else. Like, I love my wife so much, but it's not the same hanging out with her as it is hanging out with 20 of my best friends in the locker room, you know?
Yeah, Kluver hit it right on the head. I mean, these are guys that you spend pretty much every hour of every day with. Like Kluver said in the beginning, we live with 3 other guys, and you know, These are the guys you eat pretty much every meal with. These are the guys that you go to practice with. These are the guys that you work out with, and you went and played a game. Maybe you got an hour with your families, then you ate dinner, and you went downtown and got fucked up with these guys. I mean, it's a bond that you really can't find anywhere outside of it. So that's by far the thing that you miss the most, is just hanging out with your boys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Megan wants to know, first of all, where in Benton are you from? One of you guys are from Benton, right?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Benton
no.
No?
So we lived on Benton Street.
Oh, on Benton Street?
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Megan.
So that's why we were the Benton Savages.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, she's probably clarifying for me right now what I screwed up about that question. But the next question is, what is your favorite Hawkeye tradition, sports related or not?
Hawkeye tradition.
We've got some good ones, right? We've got the hokey pokey. We've got the wave now. We've got,
The wave's good. I love the Kinnick speech before we go out for the coin flip.
I really like IOWA.
Oh, I love IOWA. So my favorite, I think, was always the Hawkeye victory polka at the end of games, because that means we won, and then I'd been stressed out and kind of tense for the previous 3.5 hours. Once I heard the band strike it up, then I was like, we won. All right, time to go celebrate. I love it. So I'm going to go with the Hawkeye victory polka.
And I'm going with the post-game trophy swarm. So pretty much to Kevin's, I just think that the victory swarm is like a little bit more like in your face type of thing. So
Drake is not at all confrontational. If you have
Drake would do well in DC. Tyler Baldwin wants everyone to know that his favorite is the Pancheros burrito lift.
That's a good one.
About that.
That's a good one too, but everybody goes too fast. It's a slower pace, and everyone's like, you have to go slower.
There you go. You're getting Tyler some lessons.
Steve Ferentz was a huge fan of the Pancheros burrito lift too. Every now and then on the sidelines, you see him just doing this.
I always did it too.
The coaches were looking at him.
I think Tyler Baldwin is actually doing it in his home alone right now. Good thing we're on mute again, Tyler. Since we're in quarantine, what are the top games in hoops and football that you would rewatch with this extra time?
I've been watching a lot of LeBron James. I've been watching some 2019 LSU because they were just insane. They're by far one of the best teams of all time. I've been watching a lot of old UFC fights. That's about it.
Realistically, if I was going to go back and watch, I have this weird thing where I don't, unless it's Iowa football or like the big game of the night for college football, or I have fantasy players in NFL games, I don't like watching sports on TV. Like I don't like it. So I would go back and probably watch some like Michael Jordan games, because I've never really sat down and watched Jordan play. And I feel like in the LeBron versus Jordan debate, I'm team LeBron, but completely blind to the Jordan and what he did. And I know I should probably have arguments for both sides.
No specific games are popping into my head right now, but I always did like watching like the classic games from like 2002 to like 2006 or so. So basically when we were growing up and becoming football players ourselves and like starting playing pee-wee football, and those like the times that we would look up at like the college guys, like, holy crap, those guys are like huge. Those guys are bigger in life. So I'd probably go and find some good classic games from that period of time.
Nice. Megan says, sharing with the group, if you think being stuck in quarantine is bad, just remember Iowa State fans have waited 1,670 days and still haven't beaten Iowa. Go Hawks.
That's good stuff.
I'll drink to
that. It used to be kind of an argument where people would be like, no, it's not a Hawkeye State, blah, blah, blah. Like, it is so blatantly obvious that they're the little brother. They have such this complex of inferiority that it just makes my heart sing.
If I'm having a bad day, I just go back and watch the best play of all time from last season's game.
Yeah,
Take your own guy right out. It's amazing. I love it.
Tough to be a State fan. It's just
right. Shelly wants you to tell us a Doyle story.
I got a good one.
Oh man.
Oh, it's probably not good, but go for it, Drake.
This involves me getting my ass ripped for absolutely nothing. So when I was a sophomore and I was playing behind Macon and Adam, we used to go down after running back meetings and go to the weight room and do bicep curls and pull-ups and stuff. We would just go in to get an extra arm pump for no other reason than to kill time and because we were meatheads. We had done it every week for like 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it was, whatever week that Doyle was in the worst mood of all time. I just happened to be the first person that he set his eyes on when we were in there doing bicep curls, and this dude lost his mind on me. He started just like making up stories like, you did all this shit wrong in practice and you're not in meetings right now and you're in here dicking around and you should be studying tape and instead you're fucking on, whatever. And I wasn't actually doing anything wrong, but I got my ass ripped for no reason. That's a good Doyle story.
You have a good one, Kevin?
I do, but I don't know if it's appropriate. I'm going to keep that one for myself.
Kevin, boo.
I mean, some things do have to stay within the locker room. Like I can tell a story about myself getting my ass chewed for no reason. Like that's funny. Doyle was in a pissed off mood and I was the target that day. Who cares?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of Doyle stories, it's all about him ripping somebody's ass. He's got, I think I said it on the last podcast. He's got like a bank of memory and like digs at every single player on the team. And a lot of the better stories are like just one-liners that he'll hit people with. Of course, I have a Doyle story similar to Drake. It involves Kevin because we were in different lift groups in the summer, and Kevin was in the previous lift group. And I've told the story a couple times on the podcast, but I'll shorten it down and just get the punchline. My first 2-3 years, not a conditioned guy. All right, long snappers, specialists in general. Like we play 8 plays a game. There's no need for us to be conditioned like the rest of the team. But so there's that. And there's the fact that I was like not good coming out of high school. I had done no conditioning, yada, yada. And so hot summer day, we're in the indoor, which doesn't get great airflow. So it's like muggy. You can like feel the air as you breathe it in. You're like chewing on it. It's hot. And when I run, it gets real heavy breathing real fast. And you either, like in the summer, you get all this saliva that builds and you either have to swallow it or spit it out because that's the only 2 options. And if you swallow it, you lose it.
I thought we were getting the short version of this story. You're giving the longest version with the dumbest details of all time. It's because you love hearing your voice.
No. If you swallow it,
you spit on the ground. Doyle got pissed, threw you out of the lift.
Story's over.
And so why he mentioned that I was in the previous lift group, I had literally just gotten home from the complex earlier that day and like 15 minutes ago. And then I just see Kluver walk in the door. I'm just like,
what's up, bro?
Kluver, what's up? He's like, what did you even say, Kluver? He's like,
I think I was like, I think I probably tried to be funny about it, even though I was really embarrassed. I was just like, yeah, got kicked out.
And I just did a double take.
And Kevin was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, straight up just Doyle kicked me out.
You got to do something really, really bad to get.
I'm coming to Kluver's defense here. I was there. I was in his line. I was in his group. I saw the offense happen. Doyle was mad at him, and Kluver he drew the short straw. All right. That day was Kluver's day to draw the short straw. He got worse than what he actually deserved.
Doyle also there is times where Doyle will just kind of be on a short fuse, and somebody will do something, just ticks him off enough for him to kind of blow up. Kluver, you might have gotten it that day. So I do have a quick Doyle story myself. So my oldest brother went to Northwestern. He had a bunch of offers. Iowa offered him, but he ended up going to Northwestern. And so, one day we're rolling out. We're getting ready to start a workout, and just Doyle passing by. He's like, "Hey, good morning." As he walks down the road, he's like, "Hey, how we doing?" "Yep, feeling good this morning." So comes to me, he's like, "Ward, why did your oldest brother go to Northwestern? Do you not want to be good at football?" Just football.
That's
So
pretty
that's
good.
my Doyle story.
That's a great story.
Awesome. So I think we're supposed to be wrapping up here shortly. But one question, then I've got a final question for y'all too. A lot of the questions have kind of had a theme of why we're all on a happy hour by Zoom right now, rather than hanging out at one of the Iowa bars in D.C., of which there are many. So come visit us. That'll lead to my final question.
Love to.
Excellent. We heard during your podcast with Kreener about how this has had an impact on basketball. A lot of us feeling really sad about Garza's potential announcement today, but we're just hoping he's testing the waters and comes back. But how do you actually think this impacts football, especially as it relates to those who have had some spring training versus those who weren't able to, those with new quarterbacks who maybe weren't able to work out some of the kinks this spring? How do you think it'll impact this fall, provided that this is all wrapped by fall and we're actually able to play?
So that's a pretty good question, and I think it all really depends on when the schools are going to allow the guys to go back to practice. If they do ease up on some of the social distancing stuff by, say, June, maybe the NCAA lets schools do some practicing over the summer before camp. If not, and if some teams just completely missed out on a spring ball, this is pretty much going to affect the teams that don't have as much the young teams more than the old teams. So like the teams that have like graduated a lot of seniors or had a bunch of starters leave for the NFL, those are the teams that are probably going to be hurting most, because that spring ball, those 15 practices are where the guys make their biggest leaps going into the next year. So, like a fifth-year senior who's been a 3-year starter doesn't honestly need spring ball that bad. He's taken the reps, he's seen the plays on film a million times. But if you're going into your first year as a starter and maybe you're a redshirt freshman, you're just coming off your freshman year, there's a lot that you have to learn. And if you're not getting that on the field, like you can watch film all you want, but at the end of the day, you need the on-field reps. That's going to be hard to overcome. So it really depends on when this whole thing ends, and especially if it goes into late August and they just say, okay, we're going to do the season. We know you haven't practiced at all, but here you go. The teams that don't have a very the young teams are probably going to be in trouble come September.
Drake, do you have anything on that?
Kevin did a much better job than I would have done analyzing.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that we have a new quarterback and there's no spring ball. If I was a player and spring ball got canceled, I would have loved it, because for me as a fullback, I got a lot better in spring ball, but I hated it so much because it hurt so bad. So it would have been great, but I don't know. For the Hawks, not great.
I got asked this on Twitter the other day at first, and it was like, what's the advantage that the Hawks have over other teams? I was like, initially I was like, there's not really an advantage here. It's just everybody's kind of screwed equally. And then I thought about it more, and this is going to affect Kevin, Drake, and I all are health and human phys majors. And at one point we're kind of in the path to be a strength coach, but probably none of us are going to be anymore. I'm still kind of in the fitness industry, and I follow a bunch of strength conditioning accounts, and I keep up with some of our former strength coaches. This is going to seriously affect programs who don't have strength coaches who really, really know what they're doing. Good for us, because we have one of those. I saw Drake and Kevin, DeMarco's been posting a ton of stuff on this.
DeMarco's the GOAT. He's about to be recognized nationally, I have a feeling.
No, yeah, he's one of the best.
One of those dudes who is known as one of the best.
But how this is really going to affect, and it goes back to the older and younger players, is they're like I said, my brother's home working out with me right now. Like, they're not under the eye and under the palm of Doyle. They don't have the training staff to go and get treatment on injuries that come up, or they don't have the weight room environment to do all that. And when you shorten down a training period time, strength conditioning wise. Conditioning is huge, especially as you move into fall. It gets hotter. You put the pads on. It's so much different than when you're just running around with your t-shirt and shorts on. The teams who don't have a really good plan strength conditioning wise are going to suffer. Don't even worry about the schematics of things, defense or offense. Teams are going to lose guys at rates that are unheard of to injury because they weren't fully prepared in the offseason. There will be I guarantee, just wait for it. If we have a football season, ACL injuries will be through the roof. Other injuries will be through the roof. Tackling will probably be pretty bad.
And it's gonna be sloppy football too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of penalties, a lot of missed tackles, drop balls, all the stuff you see in sloppy football games.
Yeah.
So.
But all the way back to the front of that point is I think Iowa more than anyone, and of course we're biased and have no other data from other programs, but I think Iowa more than anybody is better prepared for that stuff.
I love it. Wrapping on a high note there. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. The hour with you all sped by, as do all the hours on your podcasts. I want to circle back, maybe James, if you can get from them the list of their favorite podcasts that they've done on Washed Up Walk-Ons. I know that folks on here would love to check those out, and we won't go back to the first ones. We promise we'll go back to the best ones.
Yeah,
Cool.
I would say
you gotta delete those early ones, man.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
For sure, 100%. Don't listen to anything before like episode 37.
Perfect. Well, I want to throw it back over to our club presidents on the call again, Kevin and Seth, just for any final closing remarks. But thanks again for joining us today, and go Hawks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go Hawks. This was fun, guys. We
Hawks by
appreciate
a
it.
million.
Yeah, guys, I just want to echo what Nicole said. Thank you so much for taking the time. For those who don't know, we threw this together very quickly, and you guys are super flexible, which is awesome. We really appreciate that. And like I said, I really hope this kicks us off on something that we can continue with other, Hawkeye legends that come from the university through the athletics like you guys, or through, I just got done chatting with people at Hampshire. They want to come do something with us too. So I think this is really going to lead into a lot of good things, and it's because you guys are able to help us kick it off. So thank you. My one question I do have for you guys, what are you guys doing on October 23rd to 2021?
2021.
Bro, I have no idea.
Currently at this point, I'm unemployed and work for myself, and I'm free every day, all day. So.
Well, you said last time you came to DC, it was for the Iowa Maryland game. It's happening again then. That's going to be our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We would love to cordially invite you guys out to that game. We throw the biggest tailgate on the East Coast. Is why we call ourselves Kinnick East, which we think, we definitely think you guys have a great time again. I also want to show off, and you guys can blow this up a little bit. We're going to send you guys a t-shirt. If you guys can see that, it's our own t-shirt for the club. You can see Iowa spelled out with the capital and the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
And of course, it's got our great logo on the back. We'll talk to you offline how we can get get your sizes and everything, and we get that sent over to you guys. And you can't have this one. I'm sorry, this was signed by Chuck Long a couple weeks ago when he was out here. He was able to get us a couple signed things that we're going to auction off for our scholarship. But everyone else on the call, thank you so much for joining. Support your local Iowa clubs, Phoenix, New York, here in DC. There's tons of stuff you guys can do to help us out, especially during this time of new normal, as we're all calling it. And I look forward to doing this again, hopefully next week with some different game. But thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you. I got one question for the Washington DC I Club.
Yes.
How many connections away are we from the president? We got to know somebody who knows him, right?
It's closer than you think. There's some people on this call who are probably relatively close. Whenever the president changes too. So before we had connections, and now we have connections. Iowans are deep within the I don't want to say deep state, that's the wrong thing, but deep within
Deep
the
state.
government.
I don't care if it's
I'll get to
Republican,
it, so.
Democrat, Libertarian. I want to meet the president someday.
We can get you a tour of the White House.
That's right. I tell you what, you come out next year and we'll get you a West Wing tour. We promise. No matter.
Can we do
Wow, that's a big promise.
episode 200 from the Oval Office? Book it.
I love it.
Yeah, we can definitely hook you up on tours. Anything you need, we got the connections.
That'd be lit.
That's what I love to hear.
All right. Well, on Iowa, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. It was fun. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely. Have a
Go
good one,
Hawks,
guys.
everyone.